This episode is going to be for my dog trainers. So, as dog trainers, one of the things that we do is we train people's dogs, right? We train people's pets. So, we work with people all the time. This is obviously part of the job, part of the business, part of the industry is we're going to be working with people. One of the things that a lot of dog trainers I find get a little bit complacent with is the human aspect and the connection aspect of working with the people. So a lot of times what happens is we get these people that contact us. They tell us they want their dogs trained. We help them out. We train them. We do whatever we can to help them out, aka get their business, help them out, train their dogs. And then after that, a lot of times it just becomes a one-hit wonder type of thing. Now, there are a couple of problems with that approach from the personal perspective, from the human aspect of that transaction. How can we just pretend or assume that the only time that these people needed our help was during that 4 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever program you offer, that 5 weeks, that 7 weeks, etc. And so what happens is a lot of people, myself included, I have to remind myself of this, is that we have to realize that we're making connections with these dog owners. And one of the things that I want with my clients is I want to have a level of connection that they feel comfortable reaching out to me if they need help with something, because who's going to know their dogs and their situation better than me? Because for them to start another relationship with another dog trainer, that is an entire process that they have to go through. So who better to help them and continue to serve them than me? So this is something, one, I have built into my business. So I used to, a long time ago, I had a dog training business years ago. My business trajectory went through a couple of different phases. I went to a dog training school. I worked for a couple of companies. I contracted overseas. Then I came back, started a business. Then I went to work for another company. Then I left that company after several years. So a long time ago, the first time I had a dog training business, I used to do, 2 weeks of dog training. I used to do 3 weeks, 4 weeks. This is what a lot of people I found still do. A lot of people do that. It's the common thing to do. You tell them 2 weeks because usually 2 weeks is an easier number to digest. Financially, it's a easier number to invest in from the perspective of the dog owner. So a lot of dog trainers offer the 2 weeks. Well, even if you do 2 weeks, forget about the 2 weeks, 4 weeks, all of that. Well, what I used to do is I used to work with the client, gain their trust, work with them. And then as I was either finishing or still with that client, I was trying to then connect with more clients. And which is, by the way, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That's business. You have to focus on client acquisition. That's completely understandable. But then after the client was gone, I would just leave the door open. This is what a lot of dog trainers do. You just leave the door open. Basically, you let the client know, hey, basically have an open door policy. You can call me, text me if you need anything. And we'll just kind of leave it at that. But what happens is, how often do they actually call you? Not very often. Because more than half the time, I realize that they just don't want to inconvenience you. They, even if they're really happy with the product, there should be a line of communication. This is where follow-up obviously is very important. I'm not trying to make this a business lecture. I'm not trying to turn this into a business episode. But it is inherent in the topic anyway. So I'm kind of bringing that up a little bit. But I'm more focusing on the human aspect of it, right? So if I just leave the door open, yes, some people are going to reach out, and some people definitely do. But a lot of times they really don't. So what I do is now, okay, after, I stopped that business. I worked for a company, for a dog training school for several years. Now I've started a business after I left that company. And so I kind of did that again in the beginning, 3 weeks, then 4 weeks. Then I started to think, I sort of changed that a little bit. And I thought, okay, I want to offer something lengthier. So I built it into my service, into my offer, so to speak. So if the dog stays with me for training, it is part of the program for me to continue to work with them for an X number of months. It is part of the service. It's not optional. It's not like, hey, if you need anything, let me know. It's as soon as they pick up their dog, we're making an appointment. Like, okay, when is our next appointment? And depending on the type of service, depending on how we arrange this, I'm either gonna go to their place or they're gonna come to me. But we're making the appointments. It's not like one follow up after the board and train. A lot of people do that. Hey, after you pick up the dog, you get 1 or 2 follow ups. To me, it's we're doing this, we're committed, okay? We're in this together for an additional 3 months. So my programs are automatically a minimum of 4 months. So if the dog is going to stay with me, first of all, I'm not keeping them for 2 weeks. In my professional opinion, okay, this is from my professional opinion, 2 weeks, you end up rushing the process. You end up rushing the dog. Yes, is the dog going to learn something? Absolutely. I have no doubt that you are talented where you can do a lot in 2 weeks, but it ends up being just like a scrambling job. You end up inevitably rushing some aspect of your training because although you're going to have some dogs that excel and do amazing, are very receptive in those 2 weeks, you're going to have those dogs that are going to need a little bit of extra time. So then what do? You have to talk to the client, ask them to extend. Now this turns into the quote could possibly change. So rather than doing that, I decided I want to help them out, and I want it to be a very thorough form of assistance. So I'm going to help them out, but we're going to do it. We're in it for the long haul. And I make that distinction, with my clients. We're not just doing this for a couple of weeks or a few weeks. We're doing this for several months, a minimum of 4 months. So when I do this, the follow-up is built into our service or form of communication. But additionally, okay, this is something I have on my to-do list. Literally, it's a to-do list that never changes. And one of those things is check with clients, check back with previous clients, even after my 4 months with them is over. And, they're happy. Their dogs are doing amazing. I'm still, checking on them. I'm going through my list. I'm going, hey, I haven't heard from this person in a while. I'm going to see how they're doing. Because I've found by doing that, there have been opportunities for me to be of service just as of recent. Okay, I was looking at my list. I'm like, oh, I haven't heard from them in a while. I haven't seen their dogs in a very long time. I'm going to check how they're doing. Well, as I check on them, I learn how their situations have changed, or, maybe the dog is going through some sort of injury, something where I'm not looking at this even as an opportunity for me to go, oh, this is now a ticket for me to make more money. I'm not even looking at it that way. From the human relationship perspective, I see it as, oh, it's a good thing I checked on them. They brought me up to date with what's going on, and I can offer them some assistance, even if that assistance doesn't come from me. Even if that assistance comes from me telling them, hey, you know what? I've had a lot of success with this form of therapy for my dogs that helped them get over this injury much, much faster. So I can connect you to this person. And this is not to gain any commission, none of that. This is purely being of assistance. And just doing that, you just really keep that line of communication open. Now, if you really don't like people, and there are dog trainers that are like that, they are very open about it. They're like, I just don't like people. I just want to train dogs. I don't want to deal with people. Then definitely you don't have to do that. But the experience just becomes much more fulfilling, I believe, when you are involved in the relationship aspect of what we do, which is working with and helping people. So I wanted to just remind you, do that. Check on them. Go through your list. You should have a list, even if it's not a very sophisticated list, even if it's just on your on some Word document, anything. Right? Just go back and just see, who have I not checked with. Now, from a business perspective, that also makes sense. From a business perspective, it's also good business. Now, if we put the human relationship aspect aside, hey guys, I just wanted to tell you, thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you're finding any value in this, all I ask is that you share it with somebody else, hit the like button, leave me a comment, let me know how I'm doing, and thank you so much for your support again. The business aspect of it is, it's good business. It's good. It's a good strategy. Okay, because as you find these ways of being of assistance, the opportunity does come up for you to be of assistance in a way that you get paid. So that has also been an experience of mine, where by checking on people, I've gotten repeat business from the clients that I've worked with in the past. And for whatever reasons, even if it's something as simple as, they're not really unhappy with their dogs. They're doing pretty well, but maybe they will like a little bit of a refresher. So even just doing that, it just keeps your business at the forefront of their consciousness. That they're aware that you are part of their dog's journey. They're aware that you are part of their dog's life and part of their lives, as well as the professional that is their go-to whenever they have a question for their dogs that doesn't involve anything in the veterinary area, of course. So this is what I wanted to cover real briefly. And guys, it's good practice. If you haven't been doing it, make a note, like actually remind yourself. Now I have a note, on my list. It is something I do every day, even if it's just one person. I have to check it off, because if you just go, yeah, I'll do it. I'll find some time. I'll get around to it. You never get around to it, because usually a bunch of other things take priority. A bunch of other things just get dumped on your lap that you have to tend to. And this is where these little things like checking on a client, sometimes you forget about. Okay, so the personalized, hey, I just want to see how you're doing. I haven't heard from you. I wanted to see how Fido is doing. And you'll notice the fulfilling aspect of it from a human perspective, unless you're heartless, of course. But the human aspect of it is very rewarding. Now, if you're heartless but you want the business, the opportunity for you to make additional, gain additional money from continuing services is also there. But I find that those are basically two ways to gain something out of it. Just to check on them and possibly gain the additional business.